Okay, I think the time is up, so maybe we can start. I do a quick introduction. So, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us today. This is EIT Health Alumni webinar, and EIT Health Alumni is a cross-European organization of the participants from different EIT health programs. We have more than 2,000 members across Europe and joining and getting bigger every year. And you can see more at alumni.eithealth.eu. I'm Timo, the regional coordinator for Nordics, covering Scandinavia and the Baltic states. I'm currently locked in Tallinn. And today we are going to have a webinar with Ansis, who is from Contriber and running a new interesting program called Cocoon, which focuses on founders' mental health. And they have very good experience through the years supporting different startups, and they have also seen the challenges, not only, let's say, fundraising and the financial challenges that startups have driving their business, but also the psychological challenges that founders face while building their businesses. And that's why we are very excited to have them here joining us to share a bit their experience through the years. And later also introducing a new program that they have tailored just for founders like you, that you can apply and join in later in the year. But I think all the details will be coming from Ansis in a few. In the format, we have in the beginning a presentation, and then there will be a Q&A. You can also use the chat function integrated to post your questions throughout things. So if you have a good question already, you can put it there, and then later we can like review them and have this interaction. Cool, but maybe let's get started. So Ansis, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Timo. And it was nice to meet you. We met in Riga, and I remember you told that I'm going back to Asia after this conference, and I thought, yeah. So here you are now in Europe.
Yeah, locked in.
Thank you for the intro, and thank you everyone who decided to join. Found time. Now it's quite sunny outside, so it's a choice you made, and I hope you will gain from this choice. I will now share the screen. Just give me a couple seconds for the technical stuff. So hopefully now you see my screen. Timo,
yep.
Is it so?
Yeah.
Okay. So two technical notes I already shared with Timo. One is I have an assistant here. It's a dog, and it starts to bark like crazy if she hears something. So it might happen that I turn off sound for a couple seconds if that happens. And the second thing is that if my internet drops, then it happens rarely, but if it happens, then it can be for up to 30 seconds. Then don't worry, I will reconnect, and then you will just tell me where you lost me, and I will continue from there. Okay, so on this note, I can start. And as Timo said, I'm a partner at the Contriber, and I'm focusing on founders mentoring program, which is called Cocoon. I myself have around 18 years entrepreneurship experience, and recently I also experienced burnout. When I suffered, it happened so that when I recovered, then it happened so that I joined Contriber. And it turns out in Contriber's portfolio, there are 31 companies, out of which 6 founders have burned out, and 5 are not far from potential burnout. So it's a quite high number. Why can it be so? Well, founders usually start their business with speed, because this is what is expected, especially in startups, because startups are expected to be the leanest and potentially the fastest way out to bring new products to market. but it also means that most startup founders start their business in an unhealthy way. You can compare it to this running over an edge of a cliff and hoping to build airplane before crash landing. And also running a startup is a story where you have to face many challenges that you have to tackle. And here we use a comparison that we compare challenge to an iceberg. Iceberg, it's a thing where on the top you see a small part and up to 87% are underwater. And this is not directly visible to the eye. Here, let's now define what is a challenge. In our opinion, challenge is that you have a goal that you have set to achieve. Then you have limited resources in your disposal. Then you have tried several things and you have failed. And with resources, we mean time, money, and network. So here we have goal, limited resources, and failure. These are the components of a challenge. And when we look closer at this iceberg, we can see two parts. On top, there are potential actions that you can take that hopefully lead you to the desired goal. And this goal and those actions together we can call a business challenge. And why I see potential actions, it is because there are many ways that you can choose how to try to achieve your goal, but definitely not all actions will lead you to success. And that means if you fail, then you chose those actions and you executed those actions that did not lead you to the desired result. It sounds quite simple, but in fact, everyone in our lives, we have this experience when we brainstorm something, we create a plan, we execute the plan, and we fail. Namely, we don't achieve what we set out to achieve. Therefore, now comes the next question, why this underwater part is important. And it's important because it contains many things. It contains your biases, blind spots, shortcomings, weaknesses, but also your strengths. And all those together, they form your perception. And it is the perception that limits the potential actions that you see that you can take to tackle the challenge. Namely, the perception defines the actions that you can think of. And this is why we say that every business challenge, namely the story which ended with a failure, has a corresponding personal challenge. And that means if we cannot solve the challenge with the potential actions on the surface level, then we have to go underwater. And if we change any of or several of those underwater components, then the perception changes, and as a result, new potential actions will arise, which will hopefully lead you to your goal. And here we can also use an analogy of a lock. Namely, if you want to unlock a door to a new place, then you need a key. And similar to unlock new ways to solve challenges when your actions haven't worked, then what you need is a change of perception, because this change of perception is the key that unlocks new and working solutions. So that much about theory of how we think. And now I will run through a very simple example. And that's a real life example from a friend, a colleague, and she gave her permission to share this story. So her story is that she recently moved into a new apartment. And second condition is she loves cooking. When she moved in, she found out that the lighting in the kitchen is insufficient. So she set herself an objective, the goal, to improve the lighting in the kitchen. And what she did next, she thought that, hey, I need a wiring scheme so that I do not damage any wires when I touch new lightings to the ceiling. And she asked the landlord, can you give me the wiring scheme? The landlord said that he doesn't have it, and he pointed her to go to the construction company. The construction company told that they most probably haven't stored it and they don't want to look for the wiring scheme. So as a result, she couldn't get this wiring scheme, and that means she finally felt totally stuck. Namely, I want to have lighting, I can't have the wiring scheme. That means I can't have the lighting and I can't enjoy cooking at my home. But here we can ask a question, is it really her true challenge? Namely, we can think of numerous ways how she could solve this, but not in her case. That means that when we look from the outside, it's one thing. But actually, there are deeper forces at play that are limiting her opportunities of the actions that she sees that she can take. Namely, in her case, we can probably observe limiting beliefs, rigid values, and also maybe limiting view of the self if we delve deeper into what's at play here. So that means what is obvious from the outside when we look at the situation is not so obvious for the particular person in the situation. And this is what hopefully can give you a perspective of how the external challenge is related to the internal challenge. But as I said, this is an oversimplified example, but hopefully it illustrates the point that I'm making. But now back to business. When you jump off this cliff and start your company, then on your way, you might have discovered several things. For example, you don't have a proper team with you. The product that you've built does not solve customers' pain. And in fact, you don't absolutely understand customers' pain. And as a result, most probably you are on zero money. That means that in fact, you are not facing one challenge in business, but you are quite rich in challenges, like in this example. In a way, it's a good thing because it builds up constructive pressure and that enables you to bring out the potential from within yourself, the potential that you were not aware of. This is why almost everyone will agree that building and running a business is a path of personal development. And this positive stress is called eustress. But it doesn't take a genius to know that and to understand that the more challenges keep piling up, then what happens is that what was positive stress in the beginning is not so positive anymore. And what happens then is there are many ways how you can sound this word. We are all different, and your sounding would be quite unique, but you can try it without microphone on. But what happens, in fact, is that the result is that the constructive pressure with time becomes destructive pressure in business. And the result is burnout. And burnout is when you find out that what you thought will be a sprint actually turns out to be a marathon. And then, of course, you are out of energy while you have traveled only a fraction of the whole journey. Well, for the business, it is quite costly because you not only lose time during this time when you are burned out, but you can also lose team members, investor trust, you can damage customer relationships, not to mention family relations and also your health. But here I also have to note that what is unhealthy for the business does not necessarily mean loss in personal growth. Because from a personal perspective, it can be one of the best years because it allows you the upgrades in your underwater wiring in this perception, and which wasn't possible before. But that would be a topic for a separate keynote. So back to the burnout, then key takeaway here is that we have two options when the stress is piling up. First is we can ignore the pressure, continue pushing the same way, and then the result is what we see here. We will burn out, and then we will be forced to take this deep look within and to change our inside in order to recover at least. But the second way is you can make a choice to start addressing inner challenges now. And then that not only saves you from burning out, but it also gives an unfair advantage in business because you can adjust and grow faster compared to competition. So we humans are quite lazy and we usually optimize everything we can. And this is why we usually choose actions that we are familiar with. However, this is a deadly bias, in fact. And here I can share another story from my colleague Rain. He told he learned this lesson while many years ago he was scaling one company called Playtech, its operations from Estonia to Bulgaria. And the story is that they started in Tartu in Estonia, and initially they had hired 76 people in 1 year, and they needed more. And they needed more than Tartu could provide. So as a solution, they decided to open up an R&D center in Bulgaria. And the way to do it was to buy a IT company with 30 engineers in it. So what they did, Rain took 5 of his best team leads and they flew to Sofia, where they spent 5 days in negotiation and interviewing and adjusting the strategy with the goal to start the new division from the next week. And now imagine a situation where there's a weekend, they've finished the negotiation, and the company that they're buying is hosting a dinner for them. And they're all together in a restaurant waiting for the meal to be served. At this moment, Rain received a call from Playtex founder Teddy. And Teddy was on the phone all the time coordinating the negotiations financial part. And Teddy told Rain that the seller on the last minute had increased the price. And Teddy demanded that Rain gets the team, stands up and walks out of the restaurant without explaining anything. Here, Rain objected Teddy and said that, well, that would be too hard way. Like, we can negotiate definitely. But Teddy's response to Rain was that the hard way is always the easy way in the end. That means in this case, trust was already broken, and that was a sign of getting more surprises in the way while investing more time and money. So Teddy pushed Rain for hard way, which was to stand up and leave. And of course, it turned out that the hard way is the easy way in the end. So what to do with heavy load here? With heavy load, we have 3 options. Option number 1 is to increase the load while the neck breaks. Option number 2 is to decrease the load. Or option number 3 is to balance load with support. And as in the laws of physics, you can sustain as high a load as you need if you add an equal number of support. And here a good example is from sports, high-performing athletes. While we see how one athlete is getting gold medal on the podium, what we do not see is that he had to sustain huge pressure of preparing for and also winning the Olympic competition. So how the Olympic medalist sustains this pressure? For example, in Estonia, there are not many golden medalists, but one Gert Kanter won discus throwing gold medal. But what people might not know is that his support team consisted of 76 people. So there's a whole team of support behind top performing athlete that helps him to sustain this pressure. And as for us, our mission is to bring such support team to high performing entrepreneurs. To those entrepreneurs who need support to sustain the pressure, but also, and more importantly, those who need this underwater team. If you remember Iceberg's example, and this underwater team helps you to figure out how to change your perception, so that as a result, you see new ways how to tackle the challenges and you get better results and be more successful. And Cocoon is the support team for founders. And mentoring, in our opinion, is a team sport. And we have built one of the best teams of mentors in the world in the field. And as Timo in the beginning said, we have a particular program for the founders, which I will gladly tell more about in the questions if someone will be interested to learn more about. So that's it in short. Thank you, and I'm open for the questions. And now,
thank you so much for this very interesting and story. How we have the pressure and then 3 ways to address that. But now I open the floor to questions. I unmute all of you, and I hope that there will be some questions for our speaker. Well, maybe no one. Maybe I was really thinking, like, what do you think, like, currently in these terms of COVID-19, where the teams, maybe there are some teams that maybe are not used to remote work and now have to like rearrange their work. Like, what do you think it's like a good practice, or like what do you see in your portfolio companies? Like, what has been a good practice to kind of like rearrange the work in a way that it would be less stressful for the founders and for the startup team?
Maybe I won't give a particular strategy or tactic, but I will give one very small bit that can make a difference. In this remote setting, it would be advisable to avoid getting into a very dry relationship, namely having a Zoom meeting where we just discuss work stuff and then we get back to working in our homes. Because what is happening usually in the office, there's this social glue, social conversations, which are unstructured conversations. Mm-hmm. So then there's this question how to add it here. And one way how it can be done and how we do it in our team is that usually 2 times a week in the beginning of the meeting, we set aside time when we don't talk about work stuff, but everyone shares their state of being. And that, of course, depends hugely on the culture that you have in your company, in your organization. Can you feel comfortable by sharing your state of being with your team members? If you can, then that is a very good thing. And also, second thing is, which might sound odd, but that is to play games together. There are group games that can be played. They don't take much time and energy. And if you can set aside like 5 minutes beginning, end of the meeting for the game, then that's a cool thing.
And I had maybe now somebody has a question. Brave enough, like we are currently on Zoom, so we can't bite you, and all questions are welcome.
Yeah,
I do have a question.
Yes, Gila.
So the mentoring, is it about mental health only, or like teaching how to be an entrepreneur?
Can you specify a bit the question, make it more personal maybe?
Because what you said is that I guess the mentoring is more about preventing entrepreneurs to have breakdown, burnout, things like that.
This is the end result. Namely, if you work with the entrepreneur together as a mentor, then of course the byproduct is that the founder will not burn out. But this is not the objective of the work. The objective of the work is to help the founder to succeed his objectives in the business and not to lose his health and mental health in the process. The approach that we take is the one that I showed in the beginning, that yes, we start by helping the entrepreneur to understand better the nature of his business challenges, this upside part. But then the conversation continues and goes to the founder himself to understand more his personality and what is specific in his wiring, his perception that is creating and or sustaining the challenges that the founder has. Because from the definition of a challenge is not a task. For example, if you have to do something and you know what you have to do, you're just a bit lazy to start doing that, then it's maybe a challenging task or it's just a task. But if you have tried all the ideas that came to you with your limited resources, including the time you had, and you could not achieve your objective, then you have a challenge. That means there's something deeper happening that needs to be addressed. And it gets much easier when you have an external angle that helps you to understand your wiring, what's happening inside. Here it's just a small note. It's important not to put it in the same shelf as psychotherapy, because in the case of psychotherapy, there's no objective of business, and the therapist is not an entrepreneur. This is the difference.
I think it's also like what I have seen from my personal experience is that if, for example, you are running a business or anything else and you have a potential to have a burnout, then yourself, it's very hard to see that you are heading there. But the good thing about having like this kind of support network is that the ones who have already experienced burnout, like also the mentors, including ANSYS, is that if you have been in that shoes, it's easier to recognize that early detection in others as well. And you can like somehow help them before they are going down the cliff. And that's, I think, a good reason to have like support system.
Yeah, that's true.
I have
any more questions?
I don't know if anyone else was first, but other than that, me, Miriam, I would have a question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So my question is, your team, so the mentors that you're working with, do they have an education in the area of psychology as well as business creation, or what is their profile?
Their profile in most cases is entrepreneur or senior leader, plus good understanding of human psyche. And that understanding of human psyche can come from various paths. It can be a psychological path, it can be a spiritual path, not the religious, I mean, but spiritual path. But there's always this combination of understanding. We can also say the left side and right side of the brain, the rational and the irrational part.
Okay, great. And I have a follow-up question. Now, when you let's say a startup approaches you and says, actually, I think we need help. How do you match the right mentors to that team? Do you see a pattern in reoccurring problems that they are presenting to you, or do you actually have the experience that every single startup that comes to you faces a very different challenge, and it's very individual, the approach you have to take every time?
Good, several questions. So first, about the scope of the challenges that founders come to us. Of course, there are recurring patterns on this surface side. These are how to make better decisions faster, how to become better leader for the team and the company, how to align company with my values and with my purpose. But then the things that are underneath the water, they are unique for each person. But the way how matching happens is through events. We have approximately 4 events per year, and those events are primarily already the value is given in those events, but at the same time it's matchmaking between the founders and the mentors. The typical event happens for 2 days. The next one will be online. Given the circumstances, it will be on, we slightly shifted the dates, it will be on June 4 and 5. And in this event, we accept up to 30 founders, and approximately 20 mentors participate there. And on the first day, it is an action day when all work together. We usually group in small groups, but those groups interact with each other so that you can observe what's happening with you and others and how you click with other founders and other mentors. And on the second day, we have group mentoring day. And on this day, we usually combine 5 to 6 founders and 3 mentors together for a whole day. And then each founder has 1 hour when whole group focuses on helping this founder to understand his iceberg from top to bottom down. And through those 2 days, usually founders get the feeling which of the mentors that they have met resonates with them and with their needs the most. And afterwards, you can have calls, individual one-on-ones with 1 or 2 mentors to get the final feeling with whom you would like to work on. And then the events, as I said, they are for 2 days. Usually they happen physically in Tartu. Now they will be online. And the mentoring, the individual mentoring, it's happening online. It's been like that all the time because the mentors are from various places in the world and founders as well.
Great, thanks.
And I think the application deadline is in the next week, so you still have time to put your application together.
Yeah, we will extend also slightly application deadline, and the price for the online event will be lower than for the physical event, just for a simple reason that our costs are lower. The mentors do not have to travel, everyone, so as it's online, then the price for a founder to participate in the next online event will be 300 euros, and the application deadline will be most probably extended now by 2 weeks.
And I think also it's like if the founders from this community want to join and maybe also get funded by Contriber, then it's very interesting. We see that they have also set the requirement that to get this kind of bootcamp before you can apply for potential follow-up funding in the business processes. But good, we can take one more question before wrapping up. So if anybody has still a question. Cool. Well, the great thing is that for all the participants, I will send you also, I can probably share the contact details with Ansis. So if you have like some questions, maybe you didn't dare to ask here in public, but you would like to follow up, so you can do that and get assistance on those extra topics. But thank you very much, Ansis, for coming and presenting this for our community. And thank you everybody for joining today. And that was one of the first series of webinars for EIT alumni, as we are like locked down, everybody at our home. And we'll have more to come here in the Nordics in the also later this month, and we're also planning some for May. So please stay tuned and see you soon on Zoom. And this episode was also recorded, so later if you want to share it with some of your friends who couldn't make it, you can also do that. You'll get the link later in your email.
As parting words, I'd like to say that in this time when we think of how should we act, it is important not to react, but much better it is to adjust. Yeah,
I think it's very easy to kind of go crazy as you get bombarded with the information from everywhere, but sometimes it's good to stand still. And well, in that sense, it's already quite in the evening, so to have that moment of peace, I think everybody can now have a good herbal cup of tea, and maybe if in the countries where you are, it's still allowed to have a walk, have maybe a refreshing, fresh breath of air. And thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Ansis, for presenting, and thank you, everybody, and see you soon already on the next webinar. And I hope hopefully some of our community members also join the Cocoon program later this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.